Conflicts have the capacity to influence and reshape our world, from the earliest clashes in ancient Mesopotamia to today's wars in the Middle East. Today we'll look at the top 40 vintage photos of wars that you dare not watch to the end. People with a weak heart are hereby alarmed, as this video contains the worst of the wars. So without any further delay, let's get right into the video. The following is a series of images showing how expressions can be depicted through the eyes alone. The differences in each image show just how many eyes can truly speak. Shell shock was a response to the stress of combat suffered by soldiers in world conflict. It was described as a response to the intensity of the bombardment and combat. It resulted in a feeling of powerlessness, expressed as dread of flight and an inability to reason, sleep, walk and talk. The Germans got trapped and quickly ran out of the heating fuel and medical supplies, leading to the deaths of thousands from frostbite, hunger and disease. It is one of the worst conflicts in military history, with higher estimates of combined casualties totaling nearly 2 million. Hans-Georg Henke, a 15-year-old German soldier, sobs after being taken by the US 9th Army in Rechtenbach, Germany on April 3, 1945. He was a Luftwaffe anti-air squadron member who erupted into tears as his world disintegrated around him. His father passed away in 1938 and his mother in 1944. To support himself, he joined the Luftwaffe. During the assault to seize Okinawa in 1945, a blindfolded and bandaged American soldier lies on a stretcher. His hands were clasped in prayer. The United States government has a stockpile of weaponry in case of conflict, but this is just a portion. 2 military personnel are interacting with the weapons stocked during World War II. As you can see, lots of weapons, including bombs, were hidden in ammunition dumps like this one. Bibi Aisha married at 14 and was exposed to frequent abuse. To exact revenge for her escape, her father-in-law, husband and 3 other family members led Aisha to the mountains, severed her nose and ears and abandoned her. Later, charity workers and the US military rescued Bibi. Her damaged visage on the cover of Time magazine ignited a debate about the threat that every Afghan woman faces. This photo was taken by an Asahi Shimbun cameraman the day before the 72nd Shinbu Corps left Bansei Air Base for the kamikaze Divine Wind operation in Okinawa. Yukio Araki was killed on May 27, 1945 in a suicide strike on American ships close to Okinawa at the age of 17 years. An emaciated American war prisoner is shown in close-up as he lies on a cot after being freed by the Allies from a German prison camp, shot in 1945 in the German state of Limburg. In Afghanistan, Willie Apiata, a Kiwi SAS operator, determines whether the photographer poses a threat. This photo's title is The Boy with the Sapphire Eyes. As photographer Vanessa Bristow released it, she was bombarded with Photoshop accusations. She responded by uploading other photos of the boy. The Second Sino-Japanese War, which began in 1937, eventually merged with World War II. The Japanese struck a Chinese train station that housed women and children during one of their bombing raids. Despite being harmed, this infant managed to survive. Alfred Einstadt photographed children witnessing a dragon slaughtered in a puppet presentation in Paris in 1963. On December 7, 1941, Japanese forces launched a catastrophic surprise attack on the United States naval station at Pearl Harbor. 20 American naval warships, including 8 battleships and over 300 warplanes, got destroyed by Japanese fighter planes. During Operation Piranha in 1965, US Marines and South Vietnamese soldiers attacked the Batangan Peninsula. During this operation, 200 people got killed by Allied forces. Photographer for Life magazine Gabrielle Benzer captured this image of cadets undergoing training for the US Army Air Corps in 1942. These young men would go on to become known as the Tuskegee Airmen. Nearly 400,000 Jewish Poles were imprisoned within 1 square mile of Warsaw after Hitler invaded Poland. As other Nazi-occupied Jewish ghettos sprang up throughout Eastern Europe, by the end of 1940, the ghetto was shot by masonry walls, barbed wire, and armed guards. The photos that emerged from Nazi-led concentration camps are among the most heinous ever taken, let alone during World War II. One may still recall the images of separated families who were kidnapped and the starved bodies bodies in the barracks. The upcoming image depicts an important historical war event. It is a rare photo that does not get shared as much as it should, or it is an iconic war photo. It may not fall under any of these categories, but can still be on this list for a different reason. Robert F. Sargent, the United States Coast Guard Chief Petty Officer and photographer's mate, took this shot titled Taxis to Hell and Back into the Jaws of Death on June 6, 1944, during Operation Overlord. The Soviet troops entered Auschwitz on January 27, 1945 and discovered around 7,600 Jewish captives left behind. A doctor from the Red Army's 322nd Rifle Division assisted in the release of survivors from Auschwitz. This Pulitzer Prize-winning photograph has come to represent American success. It's one of the most reproduced and copied images in history. It was taken during the Battle of Iwo Jima by Associated Press photographer Joe Rosenthal. The Battle of Iwo Jima image is so powerful at that time, it prompted imitators to stage similar scenes. This image was shot on April 30th, 1945 during the Battle of Berlin. In triumph, Soviet forces raised their flag above the roofs of the bombed-out Reichstag. On August 6, 1945, the Enola Gay dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima. Before the onset of the war, American scientists were pondering the development of weapons to defend against fascist regimes. On Victory Against Japan Day, photographer Alfred Einstad took this photograph in Times Square. Sailor George Mendonça met dental assistant Greta for the first time on Japan's Victory Day. He grabbed her and kissed her. This shot would become one of the most famous in history. Deep in the heart of the Nam Can forest, South Vietnamese activists are going to great lengths to conceal their identities from each other in the event of capture and interrogation. The mangrove swamps of the Mekong Delta posed further challenges, making the transfer of images to the north an exceedingly hazardous undertaking. A war in a series of battles. This image gives a glimpse of the carnage wrought on a German town by American soldiers who, through sheer tenacity, eventually won control. During World War II, the British government petitioned the United States to help with the influx of prisoners of war due to a severe housing shortage. It demanded that Americans take in 175,000 inmates. Despite its lack of preparation, the United States reluctantly consented. Here are helicopters from the United States military captured. They provided cover for South Vietnamese infantry troops attempting to infiltrate a Viet Cong camp. The camp was near the Cambodian border. The choppers assisted them in reaching the border. US engineers frequently had to destroy the framework, in this case a bridge, to stop German troops from marching on a town. They also had an advantage in location thanks to this scorched land defensive strategy. During the El Guetar Valley battle between Germany and America in 1943, these men tried to conceal themselves and the gigantic weapon of mass destruction they were carrying. It resulted in new technology. How well they blend in depends on where the army is approaching. These efforts only resulted in the advancement of contemporary camouflaging techniques employed today. Medical tents and operating rooms appeared wherever they could. As this photograph shows, the surgery was done with medics thigh-deep in water. It may appear weird to watch soldiers smiling, but if there was ever a period when a chuckle was sorely required, it was during wartime. Young American troops in the 1950s are watching a popular comedy series, The Jack Benny Show, to lighten the atmosphere. The world is a nasty place filled with terrible people. However, there will always be some of us who have kindness and humility towards them, regardless of their pain. The fall of Saigon was a painful pill to chew, a type of reckoning for the United States' role in the Vietnam War. Here is the image of the chaotic Operation Frequent Wind. This picture depicts the final phase of the evacuation of American citizens and Vietnamese in danger from Saigon. When America entered World War II, its obsession with Coca-Cola was as intense as ever. Nobody allowed a silly little thing like war to stand between them and their drink, since it was an essential organ of American life, a sign of people's priorities. It satisfied the troops' thirst. This image depicts the aftermath of a US pilot destroying German bombs. V-1 missiles were standard issue ammunition for the Germans. However, with equal parts cunning, precision and laughter, US pilots were exceedingly competent at knocking these bombs down using the tips of their plane's wings. With the awful sights of the war photography, the person on the other side of the lens has frequently forgotten. 5 photographers pose in front of Pappy's pram before reporting for duty on the World War II battlefields. Despite the hazards, Denmark Denmark was one of the few countries that agreed to save and hide Jews fleeing the Nazis during World War II. The bravery made to fight the Germans resulted in the saving of thousands of innocent lives. Between 1941 and 1942, soldiers paid to fight the war saw a significant boost in pay. In 1942, the salary was increased by more than 235%, from $21 to $50 a month. The Nazis murdered millions of Poles, but opted to abduct around 50,000 Polish babies that looked German. Those infants and children got adopted by German families to be Germanized. This snapshot shows American servicemen traveling through the wrecked streets of an Italian village devastated by World War II's unending savagery. This shot, taken in May 1944, shows the Allies at Anzio joining forces with allies from South Italy, a moment that would go down in history. The US Marines in this shot had just arrived on the sands of Da Nang's Red Beach, battle-ready and raring for action. What's their mission? To march 3 kilometers south and reinforce a South Vietnamese airbase under attack by ferocious guerrilla soldiers. That's all for this time. See you soon in the upcoming video.